Hello and welcome back to Helldivers 2 Loadout Roulette. Today's loadout is the Arc 12 Blitzer, the grenade pistol, and the pyrotech grenades. Our armor is the PH-56 Jaguar, so rockin' peak physique. I went with the light gunner helmet just to try to match the armor plates. It's not a perfect match, because that gray is kind of a grimy gray while the helmet is more clean. But it's something a little different. Otherwise, I'd probably slip back to maybe Gorilla. But that doesn't match entirely because every bit of camouflage cloth has to be different in this game. And then I went standard of safe distance just because brown, green, black, yellow, it's all the colors of the armor to some respect. But we are up against the Terminids, so this loadout should also do fine. The Blitzer will handle everything pretty well. Grenade pistol is great. We might actually have kind of an overabundance of counter-hole weapons, but it'll be fine. And I will see you in the mission. Okay. So our stratagems are the 110mm rocket pods, orbital 380, the machine gun sentry, and the laser sentry. Laser sentry might be a bit rough, considering I think it's going to end up overheating, trying to kill everything. But the rest of it should be fine. I can pound positions with 380s. But I saw people talking about this recently, and I think it's a pretty interesting point to bring up. There was a discussion about the sterilizer, you know, the chemical thrower that people don't really use because it has like 55 DPS while the flamethrower has 150. The only upsides to the sterilizer are it can do disorienting, which is hit and miss, and it can also... Oh, it has anti-tank 1. Bet you didn't know it had anti-tank 1. I didn't know. I think it's because no one bothers to use it. Justified, by the way. Like, if you're charging tanks or chargers with it, you're not trying to just confuse a charger. You're gonna have a bad time. But so... I saw other people try to justify the weapon's existence. Being like, oh, well, it's meant to be something that you apply the debuff and then swap off to. And I was like, okay, I get it. That entirely makes sense. At the same time, I think it is a problem when you start to focus more and more on like, we need to make guns that you have to juggle. Because at a certain point, it's not worth the effort. And it's not like this is, you know, a game where we have 5, 6, 8 players in a squad, where yeah, you can have a guy who's the dedicated debuffer. You know, you can apply that kind of MMO mentality, where we sit here and have a debuffer, have a healer, have DPS, have all these different roles. This game, like, really focused on not giving us that, to the point where building weapons around kind of like, yeah, you gotta juggle them, feels really out of place.
Calling down a sentry. Mag's empty. Requesting advanced weaponry.
And kind of tying it back to what I was talking about last time with Dust 514's loadout system, they did a really good job because everything was risk-reward. Your armor had effectively 3 limiting factors. Slots, which were high, medium, or low, and then like according weapon slots of heavy, light. So you could only use heavy weapons in a heavy slot, You could only use light weapons in a light slot, so on and so forth. But you also had power grid and CPU. This all came together to limit how you played and how you built. And I don't think you could, with how this game is, do a one-to-one, but I would like to see something where players take a little more ownership of builds. You know, have things be meaningful. Because the current setup is just like, yeah, as you can see with close to 50 episodes now, I just rock up with whatever the randomizer gives me. I have rolled pretty solid builds, and I have rolled absolute dumpster fires that I'm astounded work at all. And it's good for, like, the meme factor, but it's like, it's kind of bad in other ways. I guess mostly because, at least with a more rigid system, players are kind of told, like, if you take an assault drop suit, or like a heavy, you are heavy weapons guy. If you take a scout drop suit, you're the scout guy, you're a sniper. You can build to be able to, like, cloak or do other fun stuff, but you're not gonna have some janky combo where a guy's like, yeah, I have, like, essentially my armor is just a set of BDUs up top, and then I'm shirt cocking it with a banana hammock on below, but I carry a minigun. I don't know, it just feels weird. And some of these armor perks just feel completely out of left field. Like with the recent Warbond, the Adreno Defibrillator. A perk that does nothing well, and just lets you die a second time. Not enough time to get anything meaningful done. Typically you're in a position where you just get to die to whatever already killed you. Or, something I just realized, you could also potentially completely screw yourself over by having dead sprint and accidentally just dead sprint yourself to death. Which you know for a fact has happened at least once. I hope that hits a bad guy. It did. Please cool down. Yeah, it actually had a second. God, being given rail cannon and eats at the same time is kind of wild. But I think this is mostly because currently our objective is to take down the Illuminate Leviathans, you know, those big floating ships that everybody hates.
Calling down a support weapon. I got the terminal. Mission at 30 minutes remaining.
Yeah. I think I've said it before, I wish there was more depth, but I also I miss games like Dust. The shooter genre has boiled itself down to the most baseline components to appeal to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and it's reached kind of a problem point. Because now everybody's like, oh, if I don't get the numbers of ultra generico FPS game, then I'm a failure. It's like, no. You can't really rely on those numbers. Especially when a lot of those games now are just losing their player base. I mean, like, I understood when X-Defiant flopped, because I think it was Vince Zampella? No, Mark Rubin. Mark Rubin was the one who worked on that. Zampella's at DICE. But Mark Rubin, he was like, yeah, the engine we were given isn't good for FPS games, which it was the Division's engine, which I was speaking with my brother back when the game first came out, and he's like, God, the hit registration's ass. I'm like, yeah, it's the Division's engine. You're talking about a game where they could BS a couple bullets hitting or missing you because you have a gorillion health and your guns are like 10 trillion DPS because it's a looter shooter and numbers don't mean a damn in those. You could cut 3 zeros off every weapon and it wouldn't mean anything. They're the prime example of games where you're just throwing numbers at things until they die. But so it's like, of course, the whole concept is built around, you know, honestly, kind of bad servers and a bad hit reg, and then you tried to make something that's low TTK, accessible to everyone. Like, yeah, it was gonna be doomed. We're seeing that with COD, but that's mostly because it has no identity at this point. I don't think I mentioned it. If I did, I'm repeating myself, and I don't care. There was a leak that the next COD is getting Kung Fu. And it's like, why? Yeah, I talked about this. Because this was me ranting about how they need to just, like, reiterate and improve on things instead of making dumbass decisions. Is that... I think that's just a POI, but I don't care. I'm checking it out. Yeah, like, these games... I don't know. I think making things for niche audiences is honestly potentially a better idea than homogenized slop. Because if you're lucky, then you don't have to risk tanking a studio after spending $500 million making something and taking 8 years to do it. Which that was something I saw people talk about too, is a lot of games don't have a front man.
Package acquired.
Whose name was tied to Concord?
Dropping package.
Seriously. Do you know who the head people were? I don't.
Marking location. Package acquired. Southeast.
You could argue part of that's because, like, who cares?
Dropping package.
But everything just comes off as made by committee. You know, there's no driving unified vision. And a unified vision is critical. If you can't sit down and be like, hey, this is the idea, that's not good. And the other end of that issue, to be fair, is one person having a vision and being the worst person at articulating their ideas. Some people are absolute control freaks, some people just can't articulate things to save their life. They'll be like, oh, I have it in my head, and it's like, no, write it down. If you can't write down your idea and properly flesh things out, you have a bad idea, or you need to work on your communication skills. Because that's important. You need to be able to explain why and how something functions.
Requesting advanced weaponry.
I've always been told the way to show mastery over something is be able to explain it to someone like they're 5. And that's not in a demeaning way. You're not gonna be like, okay, and then you hit this button and it does it. No, you don't do that. You know, you don't be a dick. You just break it down into very simple terms and say, yes, this does this. It will be affected by A, B, and C. Because if you're making a game, you need to be able to have other people understand. You know, you can't make the thing entirely. People try to. By God, they love to try to. And we either get projects that are abandoned because people come in, you know, a year, 2, 3, 4 down the line are like, yeah, I'm burnt out. It's like, yeah, because you decided to be the everything. And that doesn't work. It simply doesn't. I've seen jobs in the industry where they're like, oh yeah, we want a guy who can do the market research, who can do the UI, UX design, who can do all the, like, design work in terms of, like, textures, who can do, and they list off, like, 3-4 jobs worth of stuff. I'm like, you want a studio. You don't want a person, you don't want a designer or a lead. You want a studio in a man. That doesn't exist. Trying to be a Renaissance man will burn you out. That is... Very few people actually have it in them to do it. And it's not a shot at anybody trying to be that. It's just how reality pans out. If you're good at something, do the thing. Don't try to stretch yourself too thin. I've had friends who've tried to articulate ideas. They're like, oh yeah, I have a game design thing I want to do. And I'm like, okay, let me see it. And it'll be super rough sentences. And I'm just sitting there like, what do you think? And I'm like, my guy, I don't know what the hell this is. You need to, at least for me, to be fair, I'm organized in certain parts of my life, other parts I am an absolute train wreck. But when it comes to ideas, I like them properly documented, segmented. If you're doing something, put it somewhere. This is a mechanic, put it in a mechanic section. This is an idea for an enemy, put it in an enemy section. Weapon, put it in a weapon section. You can make as many categories and subcategories as the day is long, and no one's gonna complain. Oh, that's not good. But people just do that. And another problem is people not wanting to relinquish control over some shred of design. You know, I've seen that with games I'm currently really hooked on. The devs are like, oh yeah, we don't really like to kind of hand off stuff to other people. We have a bunch of developers, but it's like 2 people have the vision and they don't let other people try to make an attempt at anything. They're like, we have a vision in mind and we're gonna go with it. And I'm like, you need to ease up a little bit. You can certainly send something back to the drawing board. And you wouldn't waste a ton of time because you should be properly checking in. Doesn't mean micromanage, it just means make sure you're communicating along the way so that nothing is wasted. If someone wants to create a monster and you're like, yeah, this doesn't really fit though, maybe have a time where it's like, hey, we're gonna talk, do you have any ideas? You know, give a rough sketch, we'll kind of ping it back and forth and see if we like it or not. God, this team just cleaned up super well. Alright, that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button, it helps out the channel a lot, and if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.